Hey friends, welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You should already know that I'm Leigh Brown because you're probably already subscribing to this, because unless you're new, in which case you'll just have to go back and watch 3 years worth of episodes, because where have you been? What, you listening to this bad podcast about contingencies and shit, the boring stuff, and we're not boring over here. And I'm bringing you like Mr. Serial Entrepreneur of Real Estate. Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate, a weekly podcast where I walk you through some of the wildest, most unbelievable stories you'll hear from the world of real estate. If you like real estate and you love crazy, this is the podcast for you. I should let y'all know this is Jeff Turner. So Jeff, why don't you say hello and tell them who you are and how many kids you and Rocky have, because that's my favorite part of your story, is like the repopulating of the earth that you're doing with good humans, because y'all are not raising a flock of assholes. So good job on that.
Well, we hope we're not raising a flock of assholes, but the jury is still out. My name is Jeff Turner. I'm entrepreneur in residence with Second Century Ventures, which is the venture capital arm for the National Association of Realtors. I do a bunch of consulting right now with real estate startups. In addition to doing that, one of them is a company based in Germany where I spend a good bit of my time, called 𝙑𝙀𝘼𝙏, which has been an interesting journey during this coronavirus crisis that we're in. And I'm involved in another startup that we're just beginning with my two old partners from Real Satisfied, that is an association management platform that we're building from the ground up, that is going to be very, very cool.
Well, that is cool. Is this going to help all sizes of associations, or is this for the small to mediums mainly?
All sizes.
Oh, well, you're making that little sneaky little grin. So this must be something really cool. And I guess we'll find out about it sometime, right?
You'll find out about it sometime. I don't know that this is the right audience for an association management conversation, but you never know.
My association execs listen to this. Frankly, I think they're looking to see which of their members is showing up on here. And then we have a lot of consumers, because as we know, consumers have already figured out that HGTV is so made up, because every house hunter's episode is 30 minutes. They only look at 3 houses. They always sit at a cafe and they hem and they haul, and then they buy the house, and none of them have jobs, which is kind of fascinating. So yeah, they know it's not real. They come here to get the real scoop and the stories and the things that you don't expect would actually ever happen in real estate. And we've had some heartwarming episodes, love in real estate, and we've had loan fraud, and of course there's sex and porn, because if there's anything to come out of the coronavirus pandemic, I think it's going to be a lot of people with porn addictions. So we're probably going to have to make sure they're listening to more podcasts and break that, because that's time to do that. I do refer to the coronavirus time. I'm calling it the great unknown, because
the great unknown.
We don't know what's going to happen after this. I mean, how much Zoom will stay in our lives. When are our children going to go back to school? Not soon enough, not ever soon enough. When can we send our children back to school? Soon enough, not soon enough.
You watch all the predictions, and you see all the pontification about, what the world's going to look like post coronavirus. And I just,
They're just making shit up. They need to stop. We need to stop making shit up.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, life is fun and we're glad to have it, right? Aren't we glad to have life?
I'm glad to have life every single day. And about my 6 kids, by the way, people constantly ask us for advice about raising children, but the real truth is we just found 6 different ways to screw things up. Having 6 kids is just a lot more expensive.
I think you're saying they're raising themselves right now.
I think they've always been raising themselves.
What was it that Dwight says on The Office? He said in the Schrute family, there's a tradition that the youngest child raises the oldest, and so that's how he knows how to calm babies. Is that your house?
Could be. It could be.
There's an Office reference for everything. I need at some point to create like a whole.
Well, and my youngest daughter is addicted to The Office. Like,
how old is she?
She's 14. She'll be 15 on next Wednesday, Samara. She has watched it from start to finish and never stopped watching it. So she watches it from start to finish and then starts over at the first episode and watches it start to finish. She knows more about The Office than any human being on the planet.
All right,
guaranteed.
So my son is the same way. So what we need to do is get the two of them together at an office.
Hook them up.
Night.
There you go.
A fortune, because Timmy's things, so he gets mad when they say something like the street parents live on. They say in one episode it's this, and on this episode it's this, and he's like, "That's not the street." I'm like, "Oh my God, you gotta."
Well, the thing about The Office is we recognize most of the places in The Office because they're all here in Southern California. They're not actually in Pennsylvania.
Well, but there is Scranton and there is Cooper's. Cooper's is in Scranton.
There is that.
Steamtown Mall.
but the bar that they go to is the Pickwick here in San Fernando Valley. So
Richards.
Yes.
Okay, well, actually, that's not why we're here. We're not here to
talk. No, it's not.
But we do know that all of you listeners, you all know exactly what we're talking about because Office still outranks Tiger King, no matter how you place it. So
damn straight.
I don't know why that show is popular. I tried and I had to give up because none of those people are redeemable. None of them. I mean,
I have no context. I refuse to watch it.
Just don't. Jesus loves those people and he's required to, so you don't have to. So anyway, so you're going to tell us a story about real estate that makes you want to make other people better because you like helping make realtors better. That's part of the tools you build.
Well, and honestly, it's the reason why I ended up getting into real estate technology. I sold my previous life. Was all around digital pre-media. And so it was focused on predominantly, my big success came in the newspaper industry. And so we sort of revolutionized how newspaper ads were built, and we outsourced, entire newspaper advertising departments. And I sold that company in 1999. And in the wake of having, sold that company and doing something else, I was doing nothing. I was going hiking and hanging out, and I was bored. So my wife and I, when we got married, we made the conscious decision not to have a videographer and to do all black and white photos because we were getting married in this old hotel in Pasadena, and we thought it would be really iconic to just shoot it all in black and white. Well, in the end, you kind of want a video. So for Valentine's Day in 2002, I decided to take all these black and white photos, and there was an app on the Mac at the time that is still the best Ken Burns effect app that's ever been created. It's no longer in existence, but it is the best. It allowed you to zoom into photos on a curve, and so it had this really, really amazing feel to it. And so I made this Valentine's Day video, and I played it on the big screen TV, and it hit me as I was watching it. When I was just showing spaces where there were no people, it was, for the most part, to my eyes, indistinguishable from video. Again, because of the sweeping arcing curve that existed. And it took me less than 4 hours to go register every name I could find. Hotel shows, resort shows, real estate shows, you name it. And the first foray that I decided to go into was actually on the hotel side, not residential real estate from a marketing side, until my next door neighbor was selling their house. And I said, can I go take some photos of your house and test out this new thing that I'm doing? And I did it for them. And during their open house, playing on their television was this video loop of these photos that I took of their house and the very first real estate show, very first one. And their realtor came over after the open house and said, I want you to do that for all of my properties. Can you do that for all my properties? I said, sure. Well, not long after that, we decided we were going to move and we were going to sell our house. And this is where this goes. And this is why it solidified that I wanted to do this in the real estate industry. I made the classic mistake that lots of consumers make. And I'm not an idiot. I act like an idiot on many occasions, but I'm not an idiot. But this is 2000 and end of 2002, 2003, that range. I got a recommendation for a realtor and I just took it. I hired that realtor. I got it from a friend. They said, you should use this realtor. I didn't interview any other realtors. I didn't really even interview them. And I wasn't in a not an expensive house. Our original listing price for a house was $1.1 million. I mean, it was not a, not nice.
California.
It was a nice house though. I mean,
still California.
Half acre, 14 orange trees. It was beautiful.
What's that, like $300,000 in Charlotte at the time, just for reference?
Probably, maybe 200,000. And so he says to me, you know, I'm going to get this up on realtor.com. And I said, great. I go, when are you going to come take photos? He goes, well, we're just going to put one photo up for now and we'll get to that later. All right. I'm going to fast forward through some of this because I think you know where this is going. Well, a few days go by and it's still not up on realtor.com. And so I'm emailing him. I said, you know, when is this going up on realtor.com? He said, well, I haven't put it up yet. I said, okay, fine. So in the meantime, I tell him, listen, a single photo isn't going to cut it. I'm going to take photos of my house and I'm going to edit them myself. I'm going to send them to you. And I need you to get them up onto realtor.com. I said, in addition, I'll create a virtual tour myself. That'll be a video. I see that there's a virtual tour field in realtor.com, and I want you to put that up as well. And I said, and also, when are we going to have our first open house? He goes, I don't do open houses. I said, well, I want to do an open house. He goes, well, I don't do open houses. Just give it some time. Your house is priced right. This is going to sell quickly. Everything's going to be fine. A week goes by. My photos still aren't up. My virtual tour isn't up. I mean, I've created something that's never been seen before. No one has ever seen this.
And you did the work. You did.
And I did all the work. Signs out front, there's no flyer. Again, this is 2003.
Right? I miss flyers.
I know, right? And so I say to him, are you going to do a flyer with the photos I sent you? He said, I hadn't planned on doing a flyer. He said, but I'll do one. I said, great. He did this really horribly designed black and white flyer and stuck it in there. I took them all out, ripped them up, designed my own flyer, went and got them printed myself, put my flyers in the box out front. Called him up and he said, did you like the flyers? I said, no, I didn't like the flyers. I hated the flyers. I ripped them up. I threw them away. I printed my own. I put them in the box out front. He said, awesome. I said, thanks. I said, when are we going to do an open house? I said, because now we're 3 weeks in. We've had almost no traffic. There's been nothing. I mean, nothing's happening. He said, I'm not going to do an open house. I said, what if I sit the open house for you? Like, I'll just be there. Just put the open house signs up. I go, you don't even have to do it. I said, all I'm going to do is let people in, let them see. I'll funnel all the, the interest to you. Let me run the open house myself. She says, okay. So that Sunday, he puts the open house signs out and people start coming in and it's me. So I send Rocky and we had, we only had 3 kids at the time. And I sent Rocky and the kids, out and it was just me in the house. Lots of people start coming through. About the 4th person through, I was getting curious, because I'm an entrepreneur at heart, right? I'm curious, what made you decide to come to the open house? And to a person, they all said, oh, we watched this really cool video on realtor.com and we saw that there was an open house and we decided to come to the open house. One couple comes through, they've got a little kid. We had redone one portion of the house as a playroom, blah, blah, blah. They were thrilled, like, oh my God, this is the house we wanted. So I take their information, I give them my realtor's card, and they call him. Next thing you know, I get an offer from my realtor for them.
So we're in dual agency now.
We're now in dual. Now we're in dual agency.
You're not stupid, Jeff Turner. You're an enabler. That's what you are. You're an enabler.
So now you got to understand. We're priced at 1.1. He submits an offer for them at $820,000.
I mean, I know we're messengers and all, but does he know he's representing you too?
So
he forgot. forgot.
I'm going to skip through the rest of it. This gets worse. I'm now negotiating against him. We eventually get him up to like 975. And he goes through this whole process. I've now got an offer on the house that I'm living in now that is a brand new house. I'm closing. I've got to close on a certain date. I'm getting no communication back and forth. I'm having to call his branch manager. I went over and sat in the office at one point because he wouldn't return my phone calls through I had no idea whether I was going to close on time. Turns out they didn't actually have the earnest money. They were borrowing it from their family. He knew about it the entire time. He knew we were in danger. Like I said, I sat in the office waiting for him. His manager wouldn't actually come out and talk to me. And so I just sat and waited for him to come to the office so that I could finally figure out, am I going to close in time or not? And ultimately we didn't. And I had to get an extension on my move-in date on the new home, which cost me a certain amount of money that I ended up charging them back. He never took a discount. He double-ended both sides of it, 6% on $975,000. That whole process is counter to what I experienced today. I hang out with people like you today. I hang out with great realtors. I hang out with, the Brian Copelands of the world, people who have just tremendous integrity, who work with their clients in ways that I know their clients are being taken care of. But my real estate experiences personally have not been that. And so, part of the reason why I dropped pursuing hotel shows and some of these other areas that we went to was that it occurred to me that real estate needed some help.
Well, and what really is aggravating to me, and I think it is to a lot of the good realtors out there, of course, there's never going to be a standard that's the same for everybody, because every profession has mediocrity and every profession has
everyone does.
The reality. But consumers don't often know you can fire your bad realtor. I mean,
see, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Because we're not allowed to tell you that. Code of ethics, you can't tell somebody that. But the public needs to know that if you've gotten into bed with somebody who you should not be married to, that you can get up and leave.
So I signed a seller agreement. In my world, I honor my agreements. I'm like, I agreed to sell with this guy. Like, I've got to sell with this guy. I've got to carry it through. And it wasn't until years later when I told this, I actually wrote a blog post about this back in the day on Active Rain.
Oh, let's
Active Rain.
2005.
And I got attacked by a realtor saying, "Oh, you're just one of those needy consumers. You're one of these hard to work with humans." And I'm like, "You clearly don't know me. Like, I went out of my way to help this guy."
Right.
They said, "Well, why didn't you fire him?" Well, I didn't know. I mean, how am I as a consumer at this point? How am I as a consumer supposed to know these things? This is really still early Wild West days of the internet as well.
Your buyers didn't know that they could have a virtual tour until they saw it. And then they said, this is amazing. And then you look at today and it's an expectation, but we still have.
It is an expectation, but don't get me started on this, because this is the other side of the crazy shit in real estate. 87% of consumers say they would like to see a true virtual tour, 360 3D virtual tour before they see a house. 90+% of realtors say that they know that's what consumers want, but less than 3% of houses today actually have one.
So I get on people too, because I'm like, you take 12 pictures and put it in a slideshow. That ain't a video. That's a slideshow. And so
it's not. And I enable that.
Yeah, you did.
I enable that. Okay. I did it with real estate shows, and I still do it in order to get people into a situation where they are awakened to the need for something else. But you have to do these things to sort of break down these, whatever it is. It's not fear of technology. I understand the arguments that realtors give as well.
It's laziness. It's laziness.
I don't have to do it because the house is going to sell anyway.
So I'll tell you, I like to make virtual showings because I pick my phone up, and obviously now I'm cheap because I had the iPhone 11 with no third camera on it because I refused.
I'm an 8.
I had that, but it broke. Like the whole screen shattered. And my little nice man said, it'll cost you an extra $1,000 to have a third camera. I said, I'm fine with the little dot that used to be a camera. So I'll walk through and pretend the buyer's in my hip and I'm walking them through, and it's like 11 minutes to show the whole house. And it's not for consumption, it's for sending to people. I had an agent who texted me this morning. She said, my buyers need to see your listing, but I'm scheduled for a C-section in 5 hours. Do you have anything that would help me? And I'm like, girl, that's the best excuse I've ever heard in my life. Here's your link. And so she could then give it to her buyers. They won't miss out on the house because their agent has a real reason not to show it to them. She's not lazy. She's, having a kid. And that's where agents miss that opportunity to help people in times when they need help. It's not just about looking good. It's about serving people where they are. And we're supposed to be in a service business.
I think this is the thing that sort of drives me crazy about the general category of argument that amounts to the house is going to sell anyway. That it's not about the house selling. It doesn't have any, and I've never sold a house in my life, even though I am a realtor. I went through the process. I wanted to go through the process. You got the jewelry
too, so good job.
I did. I got the jewelry too. I got all the bling, but I've never actually sold a house. So one of the things that I've prided myself on throughout my career in real estate technology is never trying to tell a realtor how to do their job. Like, I don't know how to do your job, but I do know how to run a business, and I do understand customer service, and I do understand the basics of how you should function in determining what you should do from a behavioral standpoint with your clients. And it often has nothing to do with whether or not you ultimately get the sale or whether or not the product ultimately sells. It has to do with, what does that process look like? What does it feel like? How does someone leave you? What makes them want to come back to you? And this is the part that just drives me nuts. When we did this study, I throw out this number, less than 3% of listings have an actual virtual tour. When we went through it, and we had humans literally a bunch of humans sit and open the virtual tour links and then count. Is this just a slideshow? Is this a true virtual tour? Is it just a slide, photos turned into a video? What is it? So we got that number that way. In Rochester, New York, where one of our business development people worked, more homes sold with 0 photos than sold that had an actual virtual tour in 2019.
Wait, what?
More homes sold with 0 photos in the MLS than with an actual virtual tour. See, and this is you talk about crazy shit in real estate. That's crazy shit in real estate. It's 2019. And the same arguments. Now, I get it. In 2003, when I launched real estate shows, digital cameras were like nobody had digital cameras. We didn't have iPhones. We had uploading of digital photos before Flickr existed.
I had a Nextel.
We were fighting a different kind of battle back then, but the arguments are all the same. They have not changed in 17 years. Not in 17 years.
I will say, though, I do think that the coronavirus is giving us a gift when it comes to video, because the realtors who have said for all these years they can't, they won't, they're scared of it.
They're being forced to. I agree.
Because now when you have stay at home and you're trying to serve people where they are, you've had to turn on Zoom, and half our meetings require you to cut the camera on. So hopefully they'll take this as an opportunity to realize it's not as scary as they thought, because most change isn't as scary as you think.
No, and this could be a black swan moment for lots of different reasons.
Wait a minute,
but I think a black swan moment. You talk about these.
X phone. I'm like, I don't know what 𝑥 phone is. I was lost.
I just, it's interesting that the consumer is going through this at the same time, though, which to me is what makes it really, really interesting. It's not just that realtors are being forced to use video; it's that the consumer is being forced to use it as well. And so there's a behavioral shift happening on both sides of the equation, which is an intensifier to this. So the question is it a change that sticks? Or as I read on LinkedIn, from an article that was written in Australia, are we just going to go back to the comfortable habits that we've been used to. And I think I don't know the answer to that, because I'm not going to be one of those pundits that thinks he knows what the world's going to look like after.
Because it's the great unknown. See, that's your answer.
It is the great unknown. It is the great unknown.
It'll wind up being a hybrid. I think what we'll wind up with is more people will embrace video than had before. So we'll have new people that understand it's not that bad, and you'll have buyers and sellers who understand that their time can be more efficiently used than it currently is. Because I don't think a lot of people understand that with consumer behavior, we all think we're the busiest person on the planet, but your client might actually be busier than you. And that's that selfish place that takes over a lot of us humans that are doing really well. And that's going to have to change. And that's a good thing. So there's good things.
I think it's going to be as it always is. The good realtors are going to get better. And that's how the world always works.
And then maybe finally consumers will know it's okay to demand more. To demand that somebody fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities and not enable it. Or is that codependent? You're an enabler, so the agent was codependent? Is that how that works?
I don't.
I've never done therapy like that. I don't know how it works.
I'm not going to admit to either side of that equation. I'm going to say that I was taken advantage of.
Yes, but you did all the work for that lazy person. Are they still in the business, by the way? Do you ever go look it up and see? You do, don't you?
I don't remember their name.
Well, that's probably a psychological defense mechanism.
Coping mechanism. Yes, it's a coping mechanism.
Hey, Jeff, so if a realtor's listening to this or watching this podcast and they want to know more about your products and what y'all have out there that could make them a more proficient professional, where could they find your stuff? Follow you on Twitter and watch you banter back and forth with Gaylord, because that's always fun.
Yeah, they could follow me on Twitter. Twitter it's Jeff Turner. I'm Jeff Turner pretty much everywhere. I left Facebook. We don't want to talk about that right now, but
it's okay. Many people, instead of typing in all caps is not your friend.
Anyone who's listening to this, if they want to send me an email, they can send me an email to jeff@jeffturner.com, and I'll respond to that email post haste and give them personal treatment. How's that sound? We'll do that just for this podcast.
That's proof of how long you've had your email, because Jeff Turner is not exactly a rare name. So you've had your domain.
No, it's not. I've had it a long time.
And if you are a consumer who's listening or watching, just let Jeff's consumer experience remind you that you're entitled to have a professional experience.
Absolutely.
And when you sign paperwork, your realtor is actually undertaking the task of being your fiduciary, and that means something. So if you don't know what that means, you should ask. And if you don't like the answer, you should ask someone else, because this is the beauty of a business with 1.4 million people in the US and all over the place. You get to pick, and there's a lot of different choices out there, and that's a good thing, because consumer choice is good.
Very good.
All right, Jeff Turner, I love you. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
and
Leigh.
I love your wife, and I appreciate her too. And thanks for all that you do for realtors. It's much, much appreciated.
Thanks for being a good one.
I do my best. I'm a work in process.
We all are.
And so, friends, if you feel like you need to top Jeff, you probably could. So just come on and hit me up at Leigh Brown on Twitter or any of the social networks. Be featured in a future episode. But in the meantime, you should subscribe and give 5 stars. And then I can see you next time around.
Thanks, Leigh.
If you are listening to this episode and you need to tell us something about your crazy life in or around real estate, then tweet me at Leigh Brown or reach me on any of the social networks. That's if you're a broker, realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular normal human being who happens to have dealt in real estate. Subscribe for more episodes, and as always, we are thrilled that you joined us for some crazy shit in real estate. See you next time.